Hi, everyone. I'm Meghan Barden. I'm the Director of Global Retail Media, and this is the Rithum Rundown. This year's Prime Day event was very interesting and quite a departure from prior years. So I'd love to just kind of get into some historical. So previous years, the Prime Day event has always just been 2 days, and historically, not very much awareness for the consumer leading up to it. Typically, it's kind of a surprise in terms of the dates in which it's coming and the deals that are coming. So this year, Amazon introduced two kind of factors that I think really contributed to some of the fluctuation that we saw in the sale. So the first was which they extended it from 2 days to four. And the second of which is they actually moved it up a week. So it historically has been kind of that middle week of July. And this year it was the week after 4th of July. And so I think those two factors combined create some kind of friction that we would typically not see from consumers or from sellers for that factor. So in terms of the figures on our client's end and then just generally on Amazon, I don't believe this event was as big of a success as it has been in the past. So we saw some decrease in just consumer spending, some fluctuation from day to day in terms of conversions. A lot of people were adding to cart, but not necessarily making that final purchase until the final day. And so we had to really advise our clients accordingly how to spend their budgets wisely to accommodate for some of these fluctuations. In terms of what it can teach us, I think what it can teach Amazon is not to introduce too many different factors at once. The other thing I want to speak to is the fact that this year there was also 3 to 4 other major retailer sales going on at the same time. So we had Amazon Prime Day, we had Walmart's key week that they have going on as well. I believe there was some at least partial, if not full overlap. And then also Target Circle Week was almost a complete overlap. And then finally Nordstrom's anniversary sale. So those are 3 other really key retailers that I would say are in direct competition with Amazon. And so therefore it created a really almost like too loud of a market from a sales perspective. And I think consumers were probably overwhelmed and therefore also doing quite a bit more research in terms of where they chose to spend their money rather than just immediately going to Amazon and clicking buy for Prime. So we saw a lot more of research, again, as I mentioned, like adding to cart, but not making that final purchase until much later. So people were really taking their purchases into much more consideration. And the retailers obviously were trying to be more competitive with Amazon, right? So they're trying to kind of gain back some of that market share that they've historically lost year over year. I also want to speak to individual brands were also running their own sales at the same time. So if you're a subscriber to a website that you get texts or something like that, I saw a lot of 15, 20% off just driving to the brands.com websites, which I think also was interesting because they were reacting accordingly to that Amazon Prime Day. So I think Black Friday is going to be a very, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, that whole week really is a really competitive time frame. And so I think for brands and retailers, what that says to me is be very thoughtful in your sales, right? In terms of what you have on sale, the amount of the discount, the messaging that you're putting around it, but also don't have too high of expectations for potentially the full conversion or the revenue and the sales associated. Oftentimes these sales may just be an opportunity to gain market share, right? So we may be able to go a little bit more higher to mid funnel with our ad activity to gain more market share and get in front of more people. It may not result in the same amount of conversions that certain brands are looking for. But if you notice that a competitor is not as active as you are, and there's opportunity to gain that market share or share voice within a certain retailer footprint, I would say go after it with that approach as well, rather than just always driving for conversions. So that's something that you can also take away during that time frame. But I think overall, what we're seeing this year, especially due to the economy, is that consumers are being much more thoughtful with their research and their ultimate purchases. Their dollars are not going as far as they did before. So they are being a little bit more tight pocketed. And so you want to make sure that you're being relevant with your messaging, your amount of discount, whether it's a percentage or just dollars off. And then also the products that you're featuring so that you can really have as much success as possible. I think the one lesson I would say that retailers need to take away is that no one is going to be Amazon, right? Like Amazon is their own person, their own retailer. They have their own really significant ecosystem and offering. So I don't think retailers should always try to go head to head with the exact same offerings, messages, deal percentages, and model of the sale, right? I think retailers need to lean into what they know best about their consumers, right? Their key target audiences, and then lean into those kind of purchase behavior research data points to create a sale that is going to speak most to their core audiences or those that they are going after. If you try to just attempt to copy and paste of what Amazon has created, I don't think you're going to be as successful. And I think retailers just need to be a little bit more confident in their sense of self in a way and really just lean into what they do best, whether it's they're an omni retailer and they have an in-store plus a .com component, or they have like a really niche market that they should be going after. Those are the types of things that I think they need to like lean into and cultivate and be confident in when they're creating sales in the future. Different this year for the clients. Obviously, we were extending budgets that historically only had to go past 2 days to now being 4. So number one, we had to advise clients if they were looking to spend the same amount of budget that it wouldn't go as far day to day as they were typically seeing in previous events. So number one, it was about the budget in totality, whether they wanted to increase, decrease, or just keep it very agile, which is what we ended up doing for a lot of our clients. And we really took it day by day. And so we were moving a lot of levers as well. So if we weren't seeing the conversions, as I mentioned previously, like on the first or second days, then we were going more higher level, leaning into more DSP, upper funnel, middle funnel, ad units to kind of just overall get the brand story out there and kind of reach a different audience potentially. And then those final, at least third and fourth days, that's when we were really driving home those lower funnel units to drive that conversion. And so that's where we ultimately saw the successes. I think there was kind of this like immediate spike on day 1. Days 2 and 3 were kind of like measured, people continuing to research. Maybe they'd done one purchase with a bigger cart and then we're about to do a second. And then day 4 was like, okay, last day of the sale, I need to make up my mind on certain things and then make my final conversion. So seeing some of that activity from a consumer perspective really helped inform what we were doing for our brands with their budgets on a day-to-day basis. This type of an event is so much more than just an advertising exercise. It's also an organic exercise. So at Rithum, we look at it very holistically from a paid and organic perspective in terms of marketplaces and feed management, along with retail media or digital marketing management. So we are kind of looking at that relationship of like, are we doing well organically in certain products or certain areas? And then we need to kind of supplement with paid in other areas. And that's kind of what we do in the day-to-day. And that also applies to these types of sale moments. So for organic, making sure that our imagery, our product descriptions, titles are up to snuff and making sure that they're updated in time to be relevant. And then for paid, making sure that we're leaning into areas of opportunity or areas where we know we already have strength. It's definitely not an opportunity. It's not a time to attract brand new audiences, right? You kind of want to stick to what you know and then just be very measured with the budget. And so those are things that we worked on collectively across marketplaces and the RM team to really have that full ecosystem approach.